Hello again, everybody. So, what is going on today? This past weekend, which was Labor Day weekend, we were going to go camping. And I was out here getting ready to get Zephyr ready to go. I extended the legs on the awning and all that, and just little things that we needed to do to get ready. And when I backed him up over here, I didn't hit the brake, and I just let off the fuel pedal, and he just come to a abrupt stop. I was like, wait, now that ain't right. So pulled back forward and let off the accelerator, and it just stopped again. And what that is an indicator of is the brakes sticking. Now, I had my son stand outside and listen, and this wheel right there is the part of the bus that was where the noise was coming from, was right here. So that's the wheel that's locking up, and it could be a number of things. Now, it can be a wheel bearing, it could be a caliper sticking, it could be the brake hose or the master cylinder not letting fluid return. It could even be the slide pins on the caliper not letting the caliper return. And I'm going to show you how to check all that, and I'm also going to show how to replace your calipers. It's not a hard job at all. It's very easy to do. This thing has monster calipers. These are pretty big, and they are very, very heavy. Okay, so what all do we have for this job? Of course, we have our parts. We have our calipers and our pads. We will need, here's a 10mm wrench, C-clamp. May not need, well, we will need the C-clamp to do the testing. We have an Allen wrench to take the bolt out, or the bolts that hold the caliper on. We have a jack, we have a breaker bar. May or may not need that, because I do have my little impact here, my little Nico impact. So, I also have a hammer, just in case. Let's just get into it. Let's get this wheel off first thing. Alright, so as you can see right now, if I try to move this, it will not move. Now, how do we troubleshoot this and find out what's going on? Okay, so we know that right now there is pressure in here. There's pressure pushing against at least this pad. We know there's pressure pushing against this pad. The outside one we don't know for sure yet, because it may be the pins sticking up here, or your slides. I mean, it may be your slides sticking here and here. So you really don't know for sure yet. So what we're going to do, take a little cap off of here, and yours should really be dry. I've already loosened mine, but we'll put our 10mm on there. And what we'll do, knowing that there's pressure on it, we will loosen it up. Trying to do it so y'all can see it. We will loosen this up, and what happens? There's some fluid running out. Right here, see it? It is running out, but it's not squirting out. If it was pressurized, it would have squirted straight up and it would have hit the fender up here with that much pressure. Okay, now that we've released that, let's try to move our wheel. It still will not move. So releasing the pressure on this did not make it to where you could move the wheel. What that eliminates is a blockage from the caliper up to the master cylinder. Now these rubber lines, you can see it goes to rubber right here, and it runs around and up through here. Sometimes these rubber lines, the rubber that is inside of these lines sometimes deteriorates, and what it will do is a flap of that rubber will be hanging off, usually up on this end, and the hole where the brake fluid comes out on this end will allow the brake fluid to pass through, but then that little piece of rubber will cap back over your hole going back to the master cylinder, and it will seal it off, and it'll work like a check valve. And if that is the case, then you'll need to replace this rubber line. And if that is the case, when you loosen this, you'll have the pressure shoot out of here with enough force that it will hit your fender, or it'll hit wherever it's pointing. It'll be a solid shot of brake fluid just shooting out of there. That did not happen in this case, and also when that happens, it will release enough that you will be able to move your rotor or move your wheel. And we cannot move our wheel still, even though we release the pressure. Just to prove that, I will release it and leave it released, just like that. It is running out of it. It's not squirting out, once again. But if you just crack your bleeder valve open, you will have brake fluid just run out. So that's normal. Now, with that open even, we cannot move our wheel at all. It will not move. So let's tighten it up to save our brake fluid. Also, a way to tell if you are able to force the brake fluid back into the master cylinder is if you have a bar, a big screwdriver or something like that. I happen to have a big spud bar. Let me get it. Okay, now what I'm doing, I'm going in between. Okay, this pad is going to be replaced anyway, and so is this caliper. So I'm going in between the pad. You can see I've already got it loosened up a little. The wheel will turn now. But I'm going in between those two, and I'm prying, and I'm trying to push that piston back in there. So let's do that. You can see the piston going back in. I think you can anyway. And it is reaching a point where it's very hard to do anything with. But you can see I've got some separation right here. You can actually see light through there. And you can tell, for one thing, it is not our wheel bearing, because watch this. Wheel bearing is good, even though the rotor is still kind of rubbing on the caliper there. Alright, so that has tested our wheel bearing to see if it is rolling okay. And it's also let us know you can compress this. It takes a lot of force to compress it. Okay, so we have basically diagnosed that it is not a restriction in your brake hose, because it can return. Now we need to take our caliper off. Alright, right now, since I know I'm going to be replacing this, this is a good time to go ahead and break your banjo bolt loose. Okay. There we go. it's broken loose. That way I know it'll be easy to take out when I do take the caliper off. Just snug it up. Okay, that is, by the way, on this bus, that is a 7/16. And you need a Allen wrench to get these off. So what we're going to do, stick our Allen wrench in there, and these will be tight. These are very tight. So take our hammer and peck a little bit, and just by that little impact, pecking it like that, it will loosen it, and you'll be able to start taking these off. Go ahead and take that one out. Okay, that one's loose. There it is. All right, now we can take this one out too. What would be very handy would be an Allen wrench that is actually also a socket. That's what I probably need to get. This old set here was my dad, this old Allen wrench set. So I'm telling how old it is. I think it may have actually been Grandpa's at one time. But that has those loosened up. So now, let's take this off. Okay, these slides move. See it move? This part right here. Let me push it back again. And push it back out. See, these do move. See if this other one, I'll just peck it a little bit and see if it moves. Oh yeah, it just moves. Yeah, see the pins slide really well, so those are not our problem. The only thing that leaves is your caliper. So let's change our caliper out. First off, we're going to take our banjo bolt out. Anyway, this is your banjo connector. This is your banjo bolt. And it will, you can see, sometimes if your caliper is not returning, this little hole could be plugged up. Ours was returning, so it's not. But sometimes that little hole could be plugged up and not allowing your brake fluid to return. Now ours was, it was fine. So what we're going to do is we are going to clean up I'm going to clean this up really good. And it will be dripping fluid, and it will continuously drip fluid until you get your new caliper on. So if you don't want brake fluid on your garage floor, you would want to put down a pan or something to catch this. Alright, so here is our new caliper. You can tell this caliper and this caliper are the same. Check your location of your bolt going in and your bleeder valve, and everything is the same. Then make sure that you get the right side. Spring should go down inside there. It's almost hard handling this big monster here. Okay, there is one of our pads seated. Here's the other one. These clips just hold it in, just like that. That's what holds that on. So, we will place our caliper with our new pads in it back on here. We do have, I want to get this on as soon as I can because we're losing brake fluid. We do have a new banjo bolt, and we do have new washers. Okay, so now we are going to put our line back on. And when you put this on, don't force the position of it. See, it just falls naturally in there. You try not to twist this line and contort it. You'll put one of your washers on the banjo bolt, put the banjo bolt through, and put your other one on the other side. This is a seal for each side. Then you can tighten your bolt up. And you want it pretty tight. I do not know torque specs on that. I just put it pretty tight. Now, you can put anti-seize or whatever you want on these bolts. I'm not going to right now. Just going to put them in. You may have to wiggle it. Up, down. Okay, so at first I was hearing a noise inside of the RV. Where are you going, dog? Come here. Come here, look. And I looked around and the dog's here, which he wouldn't be inside the RV anyway. He knows better than that. Don't you? Yeah. But I kept hearing a noise, something bumping and moving around in there. I knew there wasn't nobody in there. I forgot about the maid. So the maid is hard at work, and I guess this is its designated time to clean. I lost the remote, so I don't really know how to change its timing to when it comes on, but yeah, kind of scared me at first. I couldn't figure out what was going on. Okay, so the next step is to make sure you have brake fluid in your reservoir, because you're going to be bleeding the brakes. You're going to be removing all the air, because we did have to, of course, open up the system in order to put the caliper on. So we need to bleed our brakes now. So we will make sure our reservoir is topped off. We are kind of sitting on a hill here, but make sure it's got enough. We'll do some bleeding and then we'll come back to this. Okay, now in order to bleed our brakes, what I have is I have a vacuum bleeder. And in order to use this effectively and tell what you're looking at, the way I do it is I take the bleeder valve, take this cap off of it, but I take the bleeder valve all the way out, just like that, and I'll take some grease, and I will take and put grease around the threads. About like that. Maybe a little bit more. The whole reason for putting the grease is it makes an airtight seal, so that when you do your vacuum bleeding, it doesn't suck air in around your bleeder valve. Because if not, when you loosen that up, all it's going to do is it's going to suck air in around. and you're not going to be able to tell when all the bubbles come out. Alright, so with this vacuum bleeder, you can tell I've got it pumped up and it's holding a vacuum, and the hose is running down, there it is, into this little container, and then it's coming from the bleeder valve right there. Release your bleeder valve right here, and you'll see the pressure at the same time here, hopefully. See the brake fluid coming out right here. You can see the pressure dropping. And that is all going down into this little container. So we will pump it back up and just keep a vacuum on it. And what you want to do is you want to watch. And when you stop getting so many bubbles, then your brakes are bled. Didn't have to have anybody else in the driver's seat pumping the brakes and all that. You just bleed it by vacuum. And you can tell the bubbles are getting closer together, so there's less air coming out already. This is a big caliper, so it may take a little bit to bleed it. If you can see, I'm holding the container above that level so that the bubbles have to travel up, so any air will kind of show itself there. Alright, now the line is virtually free of bubbles. There's a little cavitation still, you can tell, but that is not actual air in the lines. So what you're going to do, without taking anything loose, tighten your bleeder valve back up. Like that, and go ahead and unhook it. Let's clean it up first. And always be sure to put your little rubber cap back on. Now this side is done. We have our brakes ready to go. Now you might take and clean your rotors off if you got a bunch of brake fluid and stuff on them. Actually, about 4 or 5 times of hitting your brakes, you're going to burn it off anyway, so it ain't going to matter. That is how you replace your calipers, and also how you diagnose whether it's the calipers or the line. If it was just the line, that would have been a lot cheaper to do, but actually I would have had to put pads on anyway. Might as well go ahead and put the calipers on. The line looks like it's not in bad shape, so I think we're good. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. It's exactly the same. Don't really need to see that because it's the same thing. And then we'll go take it for a test drive. So let's get this wheel on. I'll put the other one on and then we'll go for a drive. Alright, when you first get into your vehicle after doing this job, your brake pedal may go to the floor like that. You can see it's all the way to the floor. But before pulling it down into drive, pump your brakes a few times until you start feeling some resistance. Now you will have your back brakes already and they should be fine, but make sure you get it pumped up pretty good. Okay, now we are going to, never mind the brake light, that is not this problem. The problem with this, that is analog. The analog's bypassed. So. Seem to have brakes and they seem to be releasing. Now let's actually go give it a try. Okay, so to test these new brakes out, what you'll want to do is do a couple of, let's just call them spirited stops, very quick stops. So let's get a little speed built up, and then it seems my toilet is wanting to come out and talk to us. Yeah, well, it stopped really well. Anyway, at least nothing else fell out. It stops really quick. Now, let's just see. Let me let off the brake. Not even giving it any fuel. It's already taken off. So, I guess let's just go. Stuff's kind of flopping around now. Yeah, doing a spirited stop, as I called it, is not really that great in a RV. You got stuff that can move around. Anyway, I guess that has our brakes fixed. I'm gonna go out, fill up the diesel tank, and I'm gonna go to the car wash, give old Zephyr a bath, and get him ready. We're gonna go camping next weekend. We got good brakes now. Anyway, stop here for 1 second. Anyway, I appreciate everybody watching, and I'll see y'all on the next